I flatlined for 11 seconds in the ICU. When I woke up, the nurse asked if I wanted to call my family. He didn't know they were in Maui. I found out from a note they left beside my hospital bed. Gone for 12 days. Hope you're better when we get back. So I waited. I healed in silence. Then I sold the house, drained the accounts, and disappeared. When they came home, I was already gone. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe, and please tell me and others. What's one life lesson everyone should hear before it's too late? Share it in the comments below. Thanks. The first thing I remember was the sound of a monitor flatlining and the sting in my chest when they shocked me back. I didn't know what day it was, but I knew my body hurt and my mouth was so dry I couldn't even call for help. The nurse's name tag said Carlos, and he had kind eyes, but they were panicked that morning, like he hadn't expected me to wake up at all. I tried to ask where my girls were, and all he said was, "Just rest, Mrs. Whitaker." But that night, after the shift change, I heard him talking on the phone near my bed. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did. "Yes, ma'am. She stabilized." "Yeah. No, she's conscious now. Would you like to speak to her?" A pause. "Okay, got it. Just thought you'd want to know." I lay there blinking under the cheap fluorescent lights, trying to process that my own daughter had refused to take the call. My chest tightened harder than when the stroke hit. I was in the ICU for 8 days. No visitors, no flowers, no calls, nothing. When I was finally discharged, Carlos was the only one who offered to wheel me out, and he looked embarrassed doing it. I got home in a hospital transport van and had to wait outside my own house for 20 minutes because the key hidden in the ceramic frog was gone. Someone had taken it. When the door finally opened, it wasn't my daughter Kelsey or Aaron. It was Rick, my son-in-law, holding a Starbucks and acting like he didn't expect me back so soon. He stammered something about a flight delay and how they were planning to swing by tomorrow to check on me. But when I walked in, everything was wrong. Furniture rearranged, walls half-painted, my wedding photos boxed up in the corner like junk. On the dining table was a real estate flyer with my house on it. Charming southern home, ideal for young families. I hadn't agreed to any sale. I hadn't signed anything. Then I saw the file folder open on the kitchen counter. Power of attorney paperwork. My signature was there, dated 2 years ago from when I had a small surgery. They said it was just a precaution. Apparently they used it while I was unconscious to start clearing me out. I sat down on the floor because my legs wouldn't hold me, and I don't know how long I sat there. But eventually, I reached for Erin's old iPad that was plugged in near the pantry. It still worked, and I guess she forgot to log out of her messages. That's how I saw it. House goes on MLS Monday. If she's not home yet, we'll start the assisted living intake. Let's be honest, Mom was never good at boundaries. That's what Kelsey had written. My own daughter. They were trying to erase me like I was a task they were behind on. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood up, opened the pantry, and pulled out the shoebox where I kept my emergency cash. Then I took out the handwritten ledger I'd used to track passwords since 1998. Because if they thought I was dead weight, if they thought I was going to sit there and let them pack me into a nursing home while they sold my life piece by piece, they forgot who the hell raised them. The next morning, I waited until Rick left for whatever fake errand he had lined up. Then I walked straight into the room they used to call the guest bedroom, but had now turned into some kind of staging area. Half of my clothes were folded on the bed, some in plastic donation bags, and my dresser drawers were empty. They hadn't even bothered to ask me what I wanted to keep. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some misunderstanding. They weren't preparing to help me recover. They were preparing to remove me. I took the iPad again and found the rest of their texts. Aaron had messaged Kelsey from the airport. "Once Mom's house sells, we'll have room to breathe." Room to breathe. From what? From the woman who raised them through 2 jobs after their father died? From the person who took on their debt when Rick's business collapsed and who watched their kids every summer for free while they jetted off to Vegas and Cabo? I sat down at the kitchen table, opened the file folder again, and this time looked closer at the paperwork. The power of attorney they'd activated wasn't the one I thought. It was a broader one notarized during my hip surgery. The one where Kelsey rushed me to sign while I was high on morphine, saying it was for insurance. I remember scribbling my name and thinking it didn't matter. Now it was being used to dismantle my life. I called the lawyer who did my original will, James Pruitt, a former student of mine, now managing his own firm, and told him everything. He listened in silence and then said, "You're not the first, Ellie, but we can fight this." He had me come in immediately, helped me review the document, and confirmed what I'd hoped. The power of attorney didn't extend to real estate transfers without explicit consent. "They're jumping the gun," he said, "if you move fast. You can flip this on them." And I did. I had James file to reinstate the power of attorney, regain my legal autonomy, and we began preparing the house to sell under my name. I didn't want to save the house. I wanted to empty it before they did. That night, I stood in the doorway of the living room where we used to put up the Christmas tree, looked at the faint indent in the carpet where the couch used to be, and told myself this would be the last time I ever looked back. I wasn't just leaving the house. I was leaving the idea that they were still my people. They weren't. They were strangers in familiar skins. And the most dangerous part? They thought I didn't have the strength to walk away first. I didn't waste time trying to confront them. There was no point screaming into ears that had already tuned me out, and I wasn't going to sit around waiting to be boxed up like an old couch they didn't want anymore. James moved quickly. Within 3 days, we had the house officially under my name again and the sale relisted. This time under my control, I changed the locks first, then told Rick through the Ring camera to come get his tools before I donated them. And he didn't even argue, just grabbed them in silence and left the gate open like the coward he is. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not even James. I sold everything except the photos I cared about, my late husband's watch, and a box of childhood drawings the girls made when they still remembered how to love. The house closed in 11 days, cash buyer, no contingencies. I walked into the bank and closed every account they had access to, then opened a brand new one in a different branch under a different variation of my name. Nora Wittman, my grandmother's maiden name. I cashed out the rest as money orders and kept the rest in a locked travel pouch under the passenger seat of my car. My car was the last thing I kept. Nobody paid attention to a dusty silver Corolla, and that was the point. The night before I left, I sat in my empty living room on a plastic folding chair, ate a peanut butter sandwich off a paper plate, and wrote 2 letters, one to each daughter. I didn't put blame in them, not directly. I just said, "You taught me who you really are. Thank you for the education." Then I left the letters on the counter, unplugged the fridge, and took the spare house key out of the ceramic frog in the yard. I was out of Charleston by sunrise, heading north on I-95 with no GPS, no destination, and no one looking out for me but me. I wasn't running. I was removing myself. There's a difference. They wanted a life without me. Now they were going to get it. By the time I hit the main state line, I'd burned through half a tank of gas, 3 diner coffees, and whatever grief I had left over from Charleston. By the time I pulled into a small town called Elkport, population not worth counting, I felt something close to peace for the first time in months. I picked it randomly off a billboard that said Elkport Library, voted friendliest place in Maine, and that was enough for me. I checked into a rundown motel, paid cash for a week up front, and introduced myself as Nora Wittman, retired librarian from Roanoke, Virginia, widowed, childless, and newly looking for a fresh start. That's the version of me I told them. And the scary part was how easy it was to slip into it. How no one questioned anything. Because in a place that small, people assume you're running from something, and they respect you more for it. I found a small trailer for rent behind a bait shop. Fully furnished, $580 a month, no lease required if I paid in cash, and the man who showed it to me, Jim, asked no questions other than, "You smoke?" Which I didn't, and that was that. I bought groceries from a local mom and pop, signed up for a library card under my new name, and started volunteering there twice a week, shelving books. Within 10 days, I was a familiar face. The quiet lady with the southern accent and calm hands who always remembered to ask how your mom was doing. That's where I met Lily, a 27-year-old waitress with a tired smile and a daughter named Emma, who took to me like I was her missing puzzle piece. Emma started calling me Nana Nora after the second week, and I didn't correct her. I helped Lily with babysitting sometimes, told her I used to be a teacher, and helped Emma learn to read past her grade level, and slowly the days got easier. I kept a small notebook under my pillow where I wrote down every lie I told just in case I needed to remember who I was supposed to be. No children, No Charleston, no Kelsey, no Aaron, just Nora and her quiet little trailer by the marsh. But at night when I was alone, I'd sometimes wake up gasping. Not because I was scared, but because I was so afraid someone would knock on the door and say my real name out loud. I wasn't grieving anymore. I was hiding. And even though no one had come looking yet, I knew eventually someone would. Back in Charleston, the moment my daughters stepped off the plane and pulled into the driveway, expecting to walk into their transition plan, everything unraveled at once. Kelsey called me first, and when it went to voicemail, she sent a text. "Hey, we're back. Can we come by tomorrow to go over logistics?" I didn't answer, obviously, and by the time they noticed the lock had been changed, the for sale sign gone, and the mailbox filled with final notices and bank closure confirmations, the panic set in. Erin tried calling James, who very politely told her he was no longer authorized to speak with them, and when she showed up at the office, he wouldn't even buzz her in. Rick went around to the back window and tried to see if anything was still inside, but the house was empty. No furniture, no photos, not even a nail left on the wall. That same night, they called the police and filed a missing persons report. But the detective assigned to it wasn't buying the urgency, especially after Rick let it slip that they had gone to Maui while I was in the ICU, and even worse, admitted they hadn't visited me once during my 8-day stay. Within 48 hours, the story leaked. First through Mrs. Jenkins, my neighbor who always hated Kelsey's smugness, and then through a local Facebook group where someone posted, "Anyone know where Ms. Whitaker went?" Her family listed her house while she was in the hospital. The comments exploded. One user screenshotted the real estate flyer with the sale date and lined it up with my hospital records someone else pulled from public data. This woman was fighting for her life, and they were vacationing. The outrage wasn't just digital. It turned real. A local reporter showed up on their lawn. Then a bigger outlet picked it up as a human interest scandal. And suddenly Kelsey, the golden child, was being swarmed in the Trader Joe's parking lot by people calling her a monster. Aaron tried to cry her way through a news interview saying, "We thought she was fine." We never expected her to leave, but viewers weren't buying it. The segment was reposted on TikTok with a remix of her quote next to footage of sunbathers in Maui, captioned "Vacation Vultures." People were tagging Dr. Phil, calling for elder abuse investigations, digging through Rick's bankrupt business history, and speculating that maybe I hadn't disappeared at all. Maybe I'd finally gotten smart, and the more they panicked, the more silent I stayed, tucked away in my quiet Maine trailer, watching it all unfold on Lily's old laptop when she wasn't around. Seeing the comments calling me a hero, a legend, grandma gone ghost, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt safe. I felt invisible. And for the first time in my entire life, I didn't owe anyone a damn thing. It had been almost 2 months since I left Charleston, and I was starting to believe maybe, just maybe, the world had moved on without me. The news cycle had quieted. My name hadn't trended in weeks, and I'd slipped comfortably into a rhythm that didn't involve constantly looking over my shoulder. I spent most mornings at the library and afternoons helping Lily pick up shifts by watching Emma, who had fully adopted me as her second mother, without question. And when her 7th birthday came around, I helped bake cupcakes and hang decorations in the small VFW hall across from the diner where Lily worked nights. Nothing fancy, just streamers, store-bought pizza, and a folding table covered in mismatched paper plates. But it was perfect. Emma asked me to sit next to her while she opened gifts. And when someone handed me a party hat, I put it on without thinking. One of the moms, a young blonde who was always posting everything, started filming Emma's gift unwrapping. Just a 30-second clip for Instagram. Nothing special, except I was in the shot the whole time, smiling, handing over presents, even helping Emma read the card from her classmate. It didn't seem like anything, but 3 days later, while browsing library returns, Lily burst in, phone shaking in her hand, saying, "Nora, you need to see this right now." The video had been reposted by a mommy blog, then picked up by a TikTok account that cross-referenced the birthday footage with old news screenshots from the Charleston scandal. The caption was brutal, "Found her. Grandma Ghost is alive and well in Maine. She changed her name. She's got a new family and we love her even more now." I felt my stomach drop. Comments were flooding in. Some people praising me, calling it a legendary move, others accusing me of abandoning my real family like I was the villain. My face was suddenly everywhere again, and worse, my location. The video had tagged the town name. I sat down hard on the floor behind the returns desk, my heart thudding like it had when I was in that hospital bed, helpless and wired up. Lily kneeled beside me and said, "What's going on?" I looked her in the eye and told the truth for the first time. "My name's not Nora, it's Eleanor Whitaker. And I didn't run away from a family. I escaped one." She didn't ask questions, didn't judge, just nodded and said, "Okay, so what do we do now?" That's when I knew I'd have to stop hiding soon. Not because I wanted to, but because once again, someone was coming. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was scared, but because I knew what was coming, and I didn't want to waste a single second pretending I was still safe. By the next morning, the video had over 1 million views, and I'd been tagged in so many new conspiracy threads that people were speculating I faked my stroke just to get revenge. Funny how the world can flip you from victim to villain the moment you take your power back. I turned off the Wi-Fi, cleared the browser history, and stuffed everything I owned into 2 duffel bags just in case I had to disappear again. But before I could even figure out where I'd go next, I saw the silver Toyota with South Carolina plates creeping past the library parking lot like a shark in shallow water. I knew it was Erin before I even saw her face. Something in the way she parked too neatly, like she was still trying to earn a gold star. She stepped out in jeans and a cardigan like we were meeting for brunch, and not after months of public humiliation, then stood by the entrance holding a paper coffee cup and looking like she hadn't slept in weeks. I watched her from behind the stacks for a full 5 minutes before stepping outside. And when I did, she didn't speak at first, just stared like she was trying to confirm I was real. Then she said, "Mom, please don't walk away." Her voice cracked at the word "Mom," and I felt the old urge to comfort her rise up like a reflex I hadn't killed yet. But I didn't move. She stepped closer. "You're not a ghost. You're not done. You can come home." I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I already did the funeral. You just weren't there." She flinched like I'd slapped her. And for a moment I thought she'd lash out, try to justify it, blame Rick or Kelsey or the timing or the doctors or whatever convenient excuse she'd rehearsed. But she didn't. She just stood there holding that coffee like it might keep her upright. "We didn't know," she whispered. "We thought we were helping." I laughed loud, ugly, the kind of laugh that says you don't get to rewrite this. "You left me alone in a hospital to die," I said. "And when I didn't, you tried to box me up like expired furniture. Don't say you didn't know. You knew exactly what you were doing." She started to cry, silent and tense, like she was trying to keep the breakdown off camera. And I let her stand there in it for a long minute before I said, "I'm not coming back. Erin, I found a new life, a better one that doesn't involve pretending we were ever okay." Then I turned and walked away. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough to let her know this wasn't a performance. It was closure, the kind she never gave me. 3 days after Erin left, a plain manila envelope showed up in the return slot at the library, addressed to Nora in handwriting I recognized instantly as hers. But I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on my kitchen table for 2 nights, untouched, because I didn't know if I wanted to read more apologies or just burn the whole damn thing. When I finally tore it open, there wasn't a letter inside from her. There was one from me, my own handwriting, my own words written while I was in the ICU, scrolled shakily on the back of a patient intake form because I didn't think I was going to make it. I had written it for them. "If I don't wake up," it started, "just know I forgave you already. But if I do, please come. I'm scared." I remembered every word of it the moment I saw it. I had begged Carlos to give it to one of the nurses to pass along just in case they showed up. He told me later he slipped it into my belongings bag when no one came. I guess they found it while digging through the house. Erin must have read it after seeing me in Maine. And now here it was again in my hands like a ghost. I didn't cry. I didn't break. I read it once, then again, then folded it neatly and slid it into the notebook where I kept every fake detail about my new identity. Right next to the page where I'd written, "No contact peace." The next morning, Kelsey emailed the library. I didn't know how she got the address, but her message was short. "I'd like to come just once. No Rick, no cameras, just me." I stared at the screen for a long time, debating whether to answer it at all. But something in me, maybe stubbornness, maybe curiosity, typed back, "One visit, that's it. Bring the letter with you." I didn't know what I wanted from her. Maybe nothing. Maybe just to watch her face when she realized I wasn't the frail, predictable mother she'd abandoned, but a woman who had buried her grief and rebuilt something they never helped build. When Lily got home that night, I told her Kelsey was coming, and she didn't say much, just nodded and asked if I wanted her there during the visit. I told her no. This one was mine to finish. Kelsey arrived on a gray Saturday morning, dressed like she was headed to a church brunch. White blouse, 2 perfect jeans, heels completely wrong for gravel, and a nervous energy that made her keep checking her watch even though she had nowhere else to be. We met at the cemetery just outside town, the one I'd driven past 100 times but never entered. I picked that spot for one reason. It was neutral, quiet, and nobody lies when they're standing near someone who can't answer back. I was already sitting on the bench beside Frank's headstone when she walked up, clutching a tote bag like it was a shield. For a moment, I could see the teenager she used to be, the one who sat next to me in hospital waiting rooms while we prayed her father would pull through chemo. She didn't say hello, just handed me the envelope and sat down a few feet away, leaving space like she thought I might hit her. I opened the envelope and saw the ICU letter again, this time covered in margin notes, things she'd written in blue pen, scribbled responses to each line I'd written back when I thought I was dying. "We didn't know it was that serious." I thought Erin would go. "I'm sorry, Mom, I was scared." She looked down at her hands and whispered, "I didn't know how to deal with watching you get weak." I let the silence hang so heavy it almost cracked the sky. Then I said, "I didn't need you to be strong. I needed you to show up." She nodded like she'd already told herself that 100 times. "You think I don't hate myself?" she said. "You think I sleep at night?" I turned to face her and said, "I think you sleep better then." I did, wondering why my daughters couldn't be bothered to hold my hand while I bled into a hospital bed. She started crying then, real crying. Not performative or strategic, just raw, embarrassed, weeping into her sleeve like she was trying to keep the sound from reaching Frank's grave. "We were selfish," she said. "We thought we had time." I looked at the stone and replied, "So did he." I didn't forgive her. Not out loud, not internally, but I didn't scream either. I just told her the truth. "You and Erin are grown women. You made a decision. You don't get to spin that now just because people saw what it looked like." She asked if she could visit again. I said no. She asked if she could send letters. I said she could send them to Lily's P.O. box, but I wouldn't promise to read them. When we stood up to leave, she reached for a hug, and I stepped back, not harsh, just firm. "That part of me," I said, "you already buried." And this time I got to choose the funeral. The next morning, I sat at the little table in my trailer with a fresh sheet of notebook paper, the same one I'd used to track fake details and old passwords. And I wrote one last letter, not to Kelsey, not to Erin, not even to Frank, but to myself. "You did it," I wrote at the top. Simple and true. "You got out." I listed everything I'd left behind. A house that had turned cold, a name that had been forgotten, and a family that thought blood guaranteed loyalty. Then I listed what I'd gained. Quiet mornings, real conversations, a child's laugh that didn't come with strings, and a woman named Lily who saw me for what I brought into her world, not what I once gave to mine. I folded the letter, sealed it, and wrote on the front in big letters, "Nora Vittman, keep it." It went into a shoebox under the bed with Emma's drawings, and the only photo I kept of my daughters, taken long before they knew what the word inheritance meant. That afternoon, I helped Lily trim the hedges outside her porch. And when Emma ran up with a chipped seashell, yelling, "Nana, look what I found," I didn't flinch at the name. I just smiled and said, "Perfect. Let's go build something with it." We sat on the sand for an hour, stacking shells and laughing. Not because everything was healed, but because I finally understood I didn't need to heal at all to feel whole again. I didn't check the news. I didn't open the mailbox. I didn't wonder if another letter would come. The story they tell about me now isn't mine anymore. It's theirs to spin and the world's to digest. But here in this town with no past and no expectations, I'm not Eleanor Whitaker, the abandoned mother or the scandalized grandma. I'm Nora, just Nora, and this time I decide who gets to call me anything else.